Hello and welcome to Hypnotic Pull. My name is not Patrick Redford, it's George Tate, but this is a Patrick Redford original that I'd like to share with you now. Actually, a bit of history before we get started into this. This effect was inspired by a trick by David Harkey called Budge! Exclamation point. Actually, it was by David Harkey and Eric Anderson, and first put into print in this book, Simply Harkey, around the year of, hold on, I'll check. Always prepared. 1991. Eons ago, way before I was born. And that's not true. It's not at all. I started working on this effect around the same time this book came out, because I happen to live by a wonderful, you don't even need to know this information, but I'm going to tell you anyway. I live by the company, the book publishing company, the print house that prints all of Hermetic Press's books. And I used to get the rejects as a kid. The books that they couldn't sell to anybody because there were errors in them. Like the pages were glued together or folded funny. That was my first version of that book, which I still have up in my library. It's not that one. Again, you don't even know that. A little factoid I thought I'd share with you about that book. Aren't you happy you came? This is what we call fluff on a video. Right, anyway, back into it. So the first version of this trick that I published was in my lecture notes, or my first book called Diapason. And I believe I called it Hypnotic Pull in that as well. Because the main issues that I had with the original Harkey effect was simply I thought they exposed their own trick whenever they presented it. Here's what the trick looked like. It was just the second phase of my effect where the spectator would not be able to pull the cards out. You'd give them 50% control back. They can take out half the cards. Then you give them 99% control back. They could pull out all the cards but one, and you finish the effect by letting them rip into the box, destroying the box and the remaining card that they could never remove. I think that's hinting a little bit too close to what the method was that they were using. So my first published version of this effect dealt with that problem, allowing them to not get 99% control back, but 50% control, and then able to remove all the cards at the finale. The problem was it wasn't examinable because I was still using the Harkey gimmick. Fast forward a bit, I explored other methods. This is one of the methods that I explored. I have it right here. It's called the overstuffing method. This is it. This was the gimmick. It was simply 7 or 8 cards that I glued together with a glue stick. You place that into the card box, and that remove all the stuff that needs to be removed. Let me remove that. Perfect. Wonderful. You overstuff the card box, and you make sure you have this. I'm glad I pulled this off so you can see it more clearly. This is the bit of cellophane wrapping on the box. I always kept that on there because it actually helped in providing the proper resistance for the box. So that if I pull these out, because the cards are now overstuffed, it's really difficult to pull those out. But you add the cellophane to the box, and it will slide like this, which will cause you to squeeze the box harder. So essentially you are fighting yourself when you are trying to pull the cards from the box. If you want to pull them effortlessly out, you use this flat business here. Underneath the box that gives you the proper leverage to start the whole thing, and then you can remove the cards. I thought that was great because you could either overstuff someone else's box with a gimmick that wasn't a gimmick. You just pop in a few extra cards to a friend's pack and you're ready to go. But let's be real, in reality, most of the time you're not borrowing a pack anyway, so you might as well gimmick everything the proper way. Plus, this didn't allow you to do the wonderful 2 phases of allowing them to have 50% control back. So as great as this is, and I still use it sometimes if I'm caught off guard and somebody wants to see the trick and I'm not prepared, this still works. So use that if you'd like to use that. The final version, which has only been in print one time, and that was in a set of lecture notes called Contour that were especially prepared for the Motor City Close-Up Convention here in Detroit. That's John Lucas' convention. I published it there first. Otherwise, I've selfishly kept it to myself and shared it with just a few people over the years. It uses 2 things, and I'm holding this very ominous looking loop of clear thread, which is actually 12-pound fishing line. This takes care of the first half of the effect because I wanted to make the effect a little bit bigger, play a little bit longer, and able to look interesting on stage. And for that, I think it needed more than just, I can't remove the cards out of the box. So there are two gimmicks that we're going to go over here. One is this gimmick here. The second one we are going to make out of these jokers with a bit of tape and double stick tape. Before we get to the loop, let's go over what the tape is and how it's applied to the jokers. So you just need a regular deck of cards. 52 cards, 2 jokers. You don't need advertisement cards or anything like that. This is a gimmick that has already been made up. You'll notice it just looks like a regular card, although if you look a little bit closer, you might be able to see there's a bit of tape stuck all over that card. Here's exactly how that's made. When you open your box, you can either tuck your flaps in or rip the flaps off, the little tabs there. I choose to just rip them off so they're not in the way. But you want to make sure that your cellophane is intact, because that is actually important to the effectiveness of the trick. Here's what you need. Regular double stick tape. The regular kind. Not scrapbooking tape, not semi-permanent double stick tape, but permanent double stick tape. You need that. You also need some regular invisible or magic tape. Actually, it doesn't matter what it is. They're never going to see the card. Just regular tape and double stick tape. That's what you need. You're going to take a bit of regular tape, and I always take the first piece, rip it off, toss it away on the floor or wherever it is that you put all your trash. Here in Detroit, we just toss things on the floor. I'm kidding, we don't do that. It's a nice place, come visit. Take a little bit of tape. This is about 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches. This is placed on an angle at the bottom of the card, like so, across the wheels of the little bicycle on the joker. So it's running between my 2 fingers from here to here. Then you take a bit of regular tape, and you're going to tape the ends of that double stick tape down, essentially taping the tape to the card. Now, why the heck would we tape the tape to the card? This is leaving a little bit in the middle exposed so this remains sticky. Now, the reason I have to tape it down is because by nature, this card is going to be stuck to the inside of the box. So this is going to be acting much like the original Harky gimmick, but semi-permanent instead of permanent like his was. Now, the inside of the box is cardboard. It's not plastic coated. The playing card is plastic coated, which means the tape wants to stick to the box more than it wants to stick to the cards, which is why I need to tape it down with this. This allows me to actually remove the tape and replace it as needed when it becomes worn out. I also don't want the tape to come off of the card and end up on the box, because then the box won't be examinable at the end, and everybody suspects the box more than they suspect the cards at the end. You'll see any video of anybody seeing this trick, if you play it back, their first inkling is once the cards come out, is they look in the box to see, well, what the heck was holding that in? And there's just nothing to find. That's why it's important to tape the tape to the card. Great. When the effect is not in use, I just put the 2 jokers together like that. That keeps the gimmick nice and clean. And I either throw it there in the deck, or sometimes I'll even tuck it underneath the cellophane just to keep them out of the way from because this can be used for any other card tricks that you might be doing. I recommend anything out of the Patrick Redford books. Amazing stuff. Shameless plug, I know. I'm just as bad as Gregory Wilson. It's horrible. No shame. Wonderful. Anyway, so here's what you'll do when you are ready to perform the second half. We'll get into the first half in a second. You're going to unstick your cards. Your gimmick with the tape is on the bottom. I put the other joker on top. And then this bit of tape where the wheels are, remember it's across the wheels of the joker, is placed into the box so that it is flap side down and the wheels are topmost towards the opening of the box. Why, you ask? Well, because that's not going to interfere with this going in and out of the box. I can't accidentally squeeze the box and lock the cards into the box until I'm ready to do so. When I'm ready to start that phase of the effect, I just need to remove the cards, turn them around, put them back in the box. Now, as long as I don't squeeze, these cards can go in and out of the box freely, which is how the audience is able to remove them about halfway and put them back inside without any struggle. All I need to do to activate this so that they can't remove the cards is just squeeze, and it's done. Now, no matter how hard you try, it's going to be very, very difficult to pull those cards out of the box for a couple of reasons. One, the tape is holding those cards in, and it is just tape, which means if I was really, really strong and there was no cellophane on this box, I could actually pull the cards from the box. or the tape from the box. But just that one card in the very bottom is enough to fight against the rest of the pack, making it feel like everything is stuck inside. So as long as your audience doesn't do this and pull them out, or this and pull the cards out, as long as they're keeping the deck horizontal to the floor or the table, and they're holding the deck just like this, it's very, very difficult, in fact, virtually impossible to remove those cards from the box. If they loosen their grip here, again, the cellophane is going to slide that way, which is going to force them to squeeze tighter, which again locks everything in place. So between those two principles, it's a really cool illusion. You can try it on yourself. A friend of mine just told me that he was playing with this, forgot that he had the gimmick in the box, went to remove the cards and had that moment of panic on why can't I remove the cards from the box, and then he remembered, oh, it's Patrick Redford's gimmick. That's where that went. And he found the cards. But he had this moment of panic going, what the heck is going on? It's very convincing. Originally, my method for getting them to remove everything at the end was just to pull the deck out a little bit, allowing them to have that moment of, yay, I did it. And as soon as this came out, I reached over, took the box from them, and did a box switch. Because this is tape and it's not permanent, you don't have to go through that whole thing. And you can do the original Harkey thing, which is to give the audience 50% control back. Let's talk about audience management real quick. The first thing that they're doing is you're engaging their imagination. This is not, haha, I'm making you a weakling, look at how smart I am, you horrible human being, blah, blah, blah. It's not that. It's, you have an amazing imagination, here's what you can do with it. That takes a lot of the sting out of this trick, which I think is important. I learned that technique from watching Barry Richardson do his pencil pusher out of that he published in Theater of the Mind. He's making people feel good about themselves, not knocking them down and displaying his power over other people. Very useful for that. So if I'm engaging somebody's imagination, I also want to be very clear in my instructions on exactly how they are to handle the box. So when I give them the instructions, which are, when I say assume the position, this is the position I'm speaking of, which sounds a bit funny, doesn't it? But that's not an accident, it's kind of on purpose. Because they go, hold on, wait a second, what am I doing? And it gives a moment of levity to otherwise is kind of a creepy thing to do to somebody. Perhaps it makes it creepier. That's up to you to decide. Either way, this is the position I'm speaking of. Their fingers will go underneath the cards, thumb on top, and usually I give the box a little squeeze like this so they can get their thumb inside. By squeeze like that, that just buckles the box, allowing their thumb to go in. It's been suggested to me that you could cut this little half moon cutout where the sticker is, the size of a quarter. I think that looks funny and brings attention to the box that otherwise shouldn't be there, to make that cutout bigger. So I don't do it that way. I just allow them to sneak their thumb in that way. Fingers underneath, thumb on top. Same thing with the other hand, fingers underneath, thumb on top. And because the gimmick is not engaged at this point, they can pull the cards about halfway out and put them back in. So I say, just go ahead, pull the cards out about halfway, and slide them back in the box. Done. Now I'll reach over and just give it a squeeze and say, the reason you can do that and let go is because you're imagining this as, you're seeing this as a pack of cards. You're seeing 52 pieces of paper stuck inside a cardboard box that's multiple pieces. But if we engage your imagination and you see this as a solid block, what can't you do with a solid block? And they say, well, you couldn't pull it apart. Exactly. Really imagine that as a solid block. Go ahead and try to pull the cards out just a little bit. Now, I'm stressing, pull it out just a little bit first, because we want this moment to look good to your audience. We want it to look more than, let me actually engage the gimmick for real. We want it to look more than just, yeah, I can't remove the cards. But if you invite them to pull it out, just pull it out a little bit, and they'll discover that they can't. Say, well, maybe pull it out a little bit more than that. You have the stages of reveals on their face that communicates more to your audience than just, yep, I can't remove the cards, so what? And that doesn't have an impact for everyone else there. It's really strong for the person experiencing that, but we need to translate that out to the rest of the audience, otherwise the audience doesn't feel the effect, and that's just as important as the person on stage. So they of course can't do it. They struggle, say maybe pull it out halfway. And they'll be laughing at this point because they'll be frustratingly happy, which is sort of a weird thing to put somebody in that mindset, because they really won't be able to do it, and they won't know why they can't do it, and they just did it a second ago, and it feels amazing in all the right ways. So when you say the words, George, I can't remove the cards, and they repeat those words, of course use your own name, obviously. You're a very smart human being watching this. And they say, well, George, I can't remove the cards. And you really can't, can you? They go, no, I really can't. That tells the audience, that is the definitive moment that the audience knows that something amiss is happening, something crazy is happening, because they should be able to remove the cards. You ask them to relax and say, I'm going to give you 50% control back. This is the brilliance of the original Harkey and Eric Anderson routine, where you say, I'm going to give you 50% control back. Just go ahead and remove half the cards. Now, if I just say the words, go ahead and remove half the cards, they're going to have this moment of confusion where they're going to look and go, well, I can't remove any of the cards. How am I going to remove half the cards? They won't know what to do. So I show them what to do. I take the nail of my fingernail, I dip it about halfway into the box like this, and I start to pull out half the cards. I actually reach over and do that. And I push them in. Not all the way, but I push them in a little bit so that they can reach over without much struggle and take out half the cards. I used to just mime saying, go ahead and take out half the cards. The problem with that is they'll still struggle. And you really don't want them to struggle at this point. You want this to look as effortless as possible. So they'll remove half the cards. They will hand them to you. Sometimes this will happen where the cards will cascade out a little bit more than you wish. So just pop them back in with your finger and say, now imagine the rest as a solid block. And of course, they will not be able to pull the rest of them out. Now, you'd think that this would be easier for them, but this is actually more difficult than pulling out the entire pack. And it's more difficult because while they do have a better grip on the cards, because there's less cards in there, they don't have a better grip on the box because there are less cards in there. So the box is squishier, which means I can't hold the box tighter. So this is going to slide more. So I'm actually fighting against myself even more than I was the first time. If I was able to get a good grip on this box with just the cardboard and the cellophane, I could probably, let me see if I can do it, disengage the tape from the box. But you saw the amount of effort that took, and I had to hold the box with a completely different grip than I was holding before. Let me just re-engage the gimmick. You would never have to do it that way. But this is really nice. Now, there's no reason to go to 99% control and have just one card in the box. In fact, I think that communicates and tips the method a little bit too close to home. So instead, I have them relax, I take everything back, and we're going to disengage the gimmick by placing the cards back into the box underneath that joker. And when we slide them in, it pops the tape from the box, centralizes the gimmick inside, so when I squeeze now, the cards can be freely removed from the box. They can be given a very casual inspection because they're not going to find that double joker in the middle unless they really know what to look for. The reason I'm using the joker, again, is just so I can remove the joker for whatever trick that I'm doing and just get it out of the way. It's not suspect. But you might choose to put that on a couple picture cards to hide that gimmick. And then just pretend that it's a joker as it comes out. This might be your concern. And it was my concern. I think it's overthinking. But you're welcome to overthink yourself if you want to. If it's a regular card, it doesn't call attention to itself, so it blends in with the rest of the pack. If it's the joker, you kind of spread through and go, oh, there's a joker in there. And your attention goes right to the joker. Even though there's really nothing to find, it is a thick card, but your attention will go there. If I'm working for magicians and I want to fool magicians, and I really want to say, and the deck is examinable, check it out, look how smart I am. Boring. No, actually it's quite exciting. It's a wonderful, satisfying feeling. You should do this for your magician friends. No, I'll put it on 2 regular cards. That way it does blend completely into the middle of the pack and there's really nothing to find because they don't know what to look for. We, as magicians, immediately suspect the jokers. Laymen, it's a joker. They pay no mind to it, which is why it's most often the joker in this pack. This is repeatable. It's resettable. All I need to do is that, and I'm ready to go again. And because it is a thick card, whether or not you use the jokers or not, it's very easy to cut to in the pack and get it to the right position again and be ready to rock. So you could do this 5 to 10 to 12, a dozen times or so before you need to replace that tape. But you will need to replace it. And you will know when the right moment is to replace it when people start removing the cards from your box. So when I do this trick, I don't take any chances. I just refresh the tape almost every show. And if I'm doing it walk around, I'll have a stack of these gimmicks ready to rock in my pocket. I'll ring them in and not do it more than 5 times because I just don't want to chance it. But to be honest, if somebody removes it from the box, oh man, their imagination just isn't engaged. Not a big deal. Their fault, not mine. I still win. Always blame your audience. That is the best thing to do. Don't do that. It's your fault. Admit it. I would. The first phase of the effect uses a very special gimmick that looks like this. This is a bit of 12-pound fishing line that has been tied into a loop. I will show you how to tie this momentarily, but first, let's talk about why I'm using this and where it came from. Barry Richardson, who is a dear friend of mine, who published the book Theater of the Mind, has an effect in that book called Pencil Pusher. Great effect. The audience is unable to lift a pencil from his hand, and the secret was basically this, or a smaller version of this. A ring that he made that fit over his middle finger. The pencil would be passed underneath it, which would prevent that pencil from being lifted. This is a little bit different than that because you're not going to be wearing the loop on your hand. It will actually be all contained in the box. We'll also talk about how it can be self-vanished at the end, leaving everything completely clean. Your hands are clean, the box is clean, the cards are clean, which I think is an important thing for this silly little effect. But the reason I am not tying these loops for you, very simple. My hands are going to be a different size than your hands. Your hands will be different size from everyone else's hands. So it's better to teach you how to do it than to make you buy ones of specific sizes at different prices and go through all of that hassle. The important part is that the line that you use is the right poundage. This is 12-pound fishing line. I've used up to 15 pounds. Don't go past that. Any thicker than 15 pounds is too thick and too visible, and it's more to manage. So 12 pounds I found is the perfect strength for the line that you're using. The loop that you will tie, this is the way it is sized. It's going to be positioned so that I toss it on the floor. Good thing I have more right here. Look at that. You thought that was an accident. I did it on purpose. Just to show you, I have more of these always available, just in case. So you take the line, and you put it over the card box with it open, like so that the knot side of the loop is inside the box. So it's going around the cards, outside the box, onto the back, like so. This way, the flap can be closed, thus trapping the line underneath this side of the box. It is now coming out on the sides and at the back. Your box also, this is important, as you already know, needs cellophane on it. This is for a couple reasons. One, the cellophane is important for the second phase of the effect. Otherwise, that's not going to work. But two, it also will help blend or camouflage that line, which will be assumed, if you get a flash of it at all, that is just the edge of the plastic. It all blends together. That's why you don't want anything much thicker than 12 pounds. And I wouldn't go any thinner than 10 pounds because it's easier to break and stretch. If you like, and you are paranoid like me, you can grab a second playing card or an SD card or anything, any small flat object to tuck that knot down into the box. Let me get in the right position. So at the start, it is in the box. You tuck it down like so. This is actually much easier with a playing card. You tuck it down like that, trap it in place. That way it is all flush against the box, so it's easy to rock. Taking a business card or even a folded playing card and doing that is even easier. Very simple. Let me show you how to tie your loop. It is best to grab another human being, put your hand against the box, and have them tie it for you. But if you are like me and you have no friends, and you're a lonely magician, you can do this instead. So you want this loop sized properly. This loop is sized so it's just tight enough so that with 3 fingers or 2 fingers underneath the box, it is snug and tight, in that there's no wiggle room when these are trying to be lifted. How do you get a tight fit? With a magic marker, of course. I find for my finger size, this is the right marker to use. You might want to use more than one marker. I find that this is, the chisel tip Sharpie marker. I only need to use this one, and it turns out perfect for me. I found putting 2 regular Sharpies next to each other were also perfect for me. You might need 2 of these next to each other. You'll just experiment and play. You're going to grab your line. I feel like I'm doing mime work now. There's actually nothing here. No. You're going to grab your line, place your line underneath the cards with the flap open. So you're putting the line exactly where it would be if the loop was already made. Close your box. So the loop is running inside the box, like so. Your marker goes on top, like so. And you're going to need a pair of scissors, which I happen to have. Perfect. Mr. Cameraman, I'm sorry, we're not actually friends, apparently. So here's what you need to do. I'm just going to grab the scissors and cut off a bit of line. That just keeps this from bunching up and it being cumbersome. But you're going to tie an advanced square knot. If you don't know how to tie a square knot, this is a square knot. You tie left over right, left over right like that, tuck it under. That's the first part of your knot, and you're going to pull that tight. That's the first part of the square knot. But I'm going to wrap it under one more time. So in other words, instead of engaging the thread or the string once, when it goes under, I'm going to wrap that twice. That's once. That's twice. That looked like 3 times, but I guarantee it was not. Like that. Now if I pull this all the way down against that marker, that is where my loop needs to be. I'm going to do the same thing again, but this time I'm going to do right over left. So I did left over right, right over left, but I'm going to go tuck once, tuck twice, and that's going to lock the knot on itself. Now here's the tricky part, is I want to maintain that tension. Again, if I had a friend, they could put their finger there, and I would be tying their finger into that spot. That actually is more of a problem than it is a solution. So instead, I'm pulling this knot with my finger, keeping my finger inside just to keep that snugged up to the very last moment, and then pulling it tight, and really pulling that tight. That's why I don't want to cut this too short. I want enough slack so that I can pull that knot nice and tight. I can slip this out. I can trim the ends of my line right down to the knot, and it's not going to slip out. And I have successfully tied a loop. And that is nice and snug. It's not going to pull out on itself. If you are really paranoid about it, you can take a bit of super glue and dot the little end of that, but then you have to figure out how to let this dry without gluing your fingers to it. I find it doesn't need that extra step. That holds just fine. If you've done this correctly, you should be able to loop it over, place that inside, and your fingers should be able to fit quite comfortably inside the loop. So by squeezing the bit of line of the loop from the outside edges of the box, this will bow the loop open so that your fingers can slip inside it, like that. The extra tension that you might have to compensate for, because your loop might not be perfect, is accomplished this way. By squeezing with your little finger and your first finger, that will pull in the extra slack, which will tighten that up even more. Or you can pull the loop back on your fingers this way, and by pushing the box forward a little bit, that will also take up a little bit of slack. You just want this to feel snug. Now you might be asking yourself, well, that only holds the top of the box down. Absolutely true. The bottom of the box is not held down at all. But because of the way we ask the participant to lift the box, that never becomes a problem. If the person was sat across from me at a table and we were to ask them to lift this box, their fingers would be on this side. So their tendency would be to lift, let me disengage this, would be to lift this way, which if the box is engaged the right way, they would be lifting here. And it would feel like it's just pivoting on a bit of thread, which is not the feeling that we want to go for. So not lifting like this, we want like this. If it's the other way, in other words, if they're to my right side or to my left side, depending on which hand I have it in, they're going to be lifting, again with their fingers the same way, but they're going to be lifting on the side of the box that is being held down onto my hand. They're going to be lifting like this. Nobody lifts like this. This is an awkward thing to do. And we're going to make it even more awkward to prevent that from being an option. A, by having them stand to my right side, and B, because my hand is forward in front of both of us, it's even more awkward to lift away from our bodies. Our tendency is to lift towards ourselves when we pick something up. Plus, we're adding the instructions of just simply lift it into the air and place it back down, which they do once. We've conditioned them to this action. So that's never going to be an issue. If you're worried about it, it's all audience management. Very, very simple. So, to begin, that is tucked flush into the box. Sometimes you can feed it in, sometimes you can open the box and put it all down. Again, even if it's not perfect, that's okay. It blends into the plastic, it hits the light, and nobody is looking for it because nothing's happened yet. This is placed on my hand, and we have the opening remarks of, we're going to engage your imagination. Do you have a great imagination? And they'll give whatever answer it is that they give. They'll say, sure, yeah, kind of, sort of, no, not at all. Whatever answer they is that they give, go with that, use it, and sort of riff off of it. Usually, most people say, yeah, I have an imagination that I can engage, sure, especially if you've chosen your audience correctly. Say, great, what are you seeing right now? 99% of people will say a pack of cards, which allows you to set the premise of this trick very quickly, which is, that's wonderful, but you did say you have a good imagination, but you just let reality hit you in the face because you're seeing this for what it is. It's just a deck of cards, but I want to engage your imagination. What are you seeing? And then they'll give whatever answer they're seeing. Sometimes they'll give an appropriate answer, like a Rolls Royce, which is very difficult to say. They might say a pound of gold or a bar of gold, or they might say something outrageous like a unicorn. Whatever they say, usually, it tends to be something that would be very difficult to lift one-handed. If they say a coaster or a candy bar, great. Doesn't matter what they say. We're going to reframe this and make this into an object that's heavy, that would be impossible for them to lift. So when I say the words, assume the position, this is the position I would like you to assume. Are you right-handed or left-handed? If they are right-handed, they stand to my right side, and I ask them to use their non-dominant hand, their left hand. And I say the small line, which is, I just want every advantage that I can get, which seems to contradict a little bit what I said before, that this isn't my power being exhibited over another human being. It is and it isn't. It is up to their imagination, their apparent imagination that carries this effect through. But I also want them in a position where they think that this process is important. In reality, it doesn't matter which hand they use. This will work either way. But if you give power to that process, where you say, wow, well, I want every advantage that I can get on this, use your left hand, they go, oh, that must be important for some reason, even though it's not. So they are immediately placed into sort of a bind in their mind of going, oh, that's interesting. I wonder why that matters. If I was doing this with real hypnosis, that would be a technique that I would use. I'm just trying to make it look as real as possible and gain every advantage that I can to boot. If they are left-handed, I'm going to put them on my left side and do the whole thing from my left hand while they're lifting with their right hand. Small point, but an important one. So first phase, they are conditioned on how to lift the box, fingers at the top, thumb in the back, saying act like you're going to lift the cards, just don't do it yet, just assume the position, which they do. Great. Just go ahead and lift the pack into the air. They do. They put it back down. Say, now the reason you can do that is because you're still letting reality hit you in the face. You're still just seeing a deck of cards. You're not really seeing a Rolls Royce here in my hand. So we're going to now engage your imagination. This allows me, in this little banter that I'm having with the participant, to grip the cards by the side. so that I can squeeze that loop open and get my fingers into the loop. So that is happening like this, and everything is in position. If I need to, my thumb can go underneath the pack as I adjust, but I don't want to get into this position where I'm struggling or fiddling underneath the box. That doesn't look good and calls a little attention to itself. Even though the person who would notice that has their eyes closed, the audience who's watching on will also notice it. Try not to do that. So just a little bit of adjustment, your thumb can engage the loop to pull it back and pull it out of the box if you need, but don't do this. This looks like you're playing with something underneath the box, which you are, so don't do that. They assume the position, they close their eyes. You say, keep your eyes closed. Really imagine that as a heavy object. And of course, if this was a heavy object, it'd be impossible for me to hold. So I make the silly joke, which is topical to the moment we're recording this, which is that I'm secretly the Hulk, which is the dude from the Avengers, I guess. I'm not a comic book guy, but he's the green guy. It's comical. It's funny. It's comedy. It's like comedy. It's not. It works. Just make up your own mind. So they lift. They, of course, can't. Now, I am not pulling away from them, because when they lift, they will be able to lift your arm up because it is now attached to you. So you need to compensate for their pulling action. Now they are just lifting, they're not fighting you because you haven't asked them to fight. You're just asking them to lift. So they have a gentle lift and they will meet resistance right away. So I'm just compensating by lowering my arm very gently, matching whatever strength they're pulling at. Now the trick to this is I have to match and look natural so it doesn't look like I'm tensing my entire arm up like I'm fighting, because it should just look like I'm holding a deck of cards. So as they pull, I have to do this funny thing where I'm relaxing my shoulder but tightening my arm and lowering my hand without it looking like I'm struggling at all, because I'm actually the one fighting the force of that lifting. And you will feel that plastic biting into your fingers so that you know everything is engaged and working properly. So they will start to lift. So just lift it up a little bit, lift it up more, lift it high into the air. Of course, they won't be going anywhere. They will have a look of hopefully astonishment and fun on their face. And then again, I need to communicate that to the rest of the audience. I could say, what does that feel like to you? But that opens it up to a lot of different answers that I might not want, that don't communicate what's happening quickly. So instead, I say the words, George, I can't lift the cards, which gives them the exact words that I need them to say, that communicate the exact thing that I want to communicate, and does it efficiently and quickly. So they will say, George, I can't lift the cards, and you really can't. Don't lie to make me look good. I really can't lift the cards. Good, relax for a moment. Now they'll relax, they'll open their eyes, and any sane, intelligent person or human being, because this is what it feels like, will just assume that I am doing this. I'm holding the pack down because their eyes are closed. I might as well just be doing this. In fact, if you want to have a bit of fun, just do that to a friend and claim that you're doing all this fun hypnosis work and never have them open their eyes. It'll work the same way, it just won't work in front of an audience. So I point that out. So now you might just think because you had your eyes closed and you were imagining this heavy thing that I was just holding the pack down, because that might be what it felt like to you. And they'll probably admit, yeah, that's what it felt like. So you're going to do the second phase of phase one, or the second part of phase one, which is to have them do the same thing again but with their eyes open, which you claim is going to be more difficult for them because reality will be hitting them in the face, because they will see a deck of cards, so they have to really imagine this as if it is something that it's not, which is sort of a callback to the first thing that we did where we said, what is this? And they go, it's a deck of cards. I thought you had a good imagination. Sorry, haha, wrong, and you slap them. You don't slap them unless you're into that and they're into that and you have everybody's consent, then slap them. That could be fun for some people. Right, back to the cards. So they do it again, they lift, they're looking at it, you have them repeat the words again, George, I can't lift the cards. Of course, use your name, don't use my name, that just makes more sense. They can't do it, have them relax. Now we're going to disengage the gimmick. Now, it has been being pulled into the flesh of your fingers. So you're going to find that after a good tug or pull, there's going to be indentations in your fingers from that plastic, which means just sliding your fingers out of that line is going to be a bit trickier than just doing it on your own, getting in and out of the line. So here's how we do that. I'm going to relax with them, they relax. I take this moment of getting my fingers back to squeeze that loop, that opens it up. That allows me to pull the loop just far enough away from my hand that my fingers can slip out. If I'm really struggling, I'm going to go straight into the last phase and not let them lift the cards up successfully, of just rolling my hand over the box and opening the box up. That pulls the line right off my fingers and also opens the box. That's only a last-ditch effort, though, if it's been pulled with such force that I can't get the line off of my fingers when I need to. Because the worst thing to do at this moment is to be struggling with a deck of cards on your fingers when it's supposed to just be a card box. Otherwise, just squeezing, removing your fingers is enough to place it back down. I don't try to tuck the line back into the box, but I do pull it down on an angle, just trying to keep it as flush with the box as possible. So now, have another look. It is just a pack of cards. We have to restore you back to normal. Go ahead and lift the box, which they will. Sometimes they turn it over. I don't make a point to go, give me that box back, because that calls attention to the box. But they're expecting something more advanced than this, if they're suspecting anything at all, than just a line on the bottom of the box. And again, it just blends in with the plastic of the box, because it has the same shiny sheen. So they'll lift. They'll either put it right back down again and be astonished, or they'll lift. They might give a once over to the box like that, which I'll just take from them. I'll shake their hand, and we can move on to phase 2. That's the first phase of hypnotic pull. Ah, yes, but I did promise that this loop is practically self-vanishing. Okay, I lied. It's not self-vanishing, but it is very easy to get rid of at the right time. This is simply all you have to do. So once they've successfully lifted the box up and placed it back down, we're going to go into phase 2, which is where they can't remove the cards from the box. And we're going to remove the loop from the box by opening it up, rolling that loop off of the box. I'm exposing this for you now. And just opening the card box, that loop comes right off. And it's now on my hand. Now, where does the loop go? I drop it on the floor. That's where it goes. That's it. I drop it on the floor, and I forget about it. No one is ever going to pick this up. See, I don't even know where it is on the table. There we go. No one's going to walk over to the floor later and pick this up and go, oh, that's how he did that box thing. This is just trash on the floor. And I say that, and I need to tell you this story. At that convention where I published this trick, which is the Motor City Close-Up Convention. It was a 3-day convention. I did this on the first day in the lecture room. On the second day, Robert Bangle was doing his lecture, and he had watched my lecture, and he thought this was a great trick. But having a laugh at me, he was in the middle of an explanation for one of his brilliant coin things or card things that he was doing. He stops everything mid-sentence, looks down at the ground, picks up this, and goes, what the hell is that? Which got a great laugh from everyone, because I just spent 5 minutes talking about how no one will ever see this or know what it is. And he just thought he would slap me around a little bit and point out the fact that you can find it if you look hard enough, especially on a busy hotel room carpet floor. So there you go. When I say nobody will see it, they might see it, but they still won't have any clue what the heck it was for. It'll be so disconnected. Really, pay no mind to it. Don't worry about it. If you are doing walk around and you want to do this strolling, you can just drop this in your coat pocket. It really doesn't matter. I prefer to just drop them on the floor and forget it and have a pocket full of them if I want to repeat it. But when you're removing this loop from your card box, very silly thing, you're going to be really nervous about your audience seeing this. They don't know it's there. So as long as you don't draw attention to it, as you're removing the loop from the box, that's all I have to do. It's gone. Now it's in my hand and it's here, but I'm going to now redirect their attention for phase 2. So if I turn up with my arm upstage or away from my audience, this is going to drop onto the floor away from my body, and it's just going to fall, or I'll drop it behind their back. It's just going to be gone. You don't want their attention on it, so you don't want to pull it off and just drop it straight down on the floor. Your audience will see that. So I'm going to use the situation of the person who's with me and myself to block the path of that hitting the floor, so it doesn't catch the light and catch people's attention. So there is a little bit of method to me dropping it and getting rid of it, but not much at all. And if you're uncomfortable dropping it on the floor, you can take it off and reach into your pocket and drop it there as you pull something else out. perhaps a hypnotic spiral, or a pocket watch, or I have no idea what you pull out of your pocket. Find something. A lighter, for all I care. Just don't put your hand in your pocket, take it out for no reason. That looks funny. Don't do that. Good. I'd like to talk about, I think, the ultimate presentation of hypnotic pull, although it has less and less relevance now than it did when I first came up with it, and that is doing the whole thing with a pack of cigarettes. Now, when I developed this, I thought, man, wouldn't it be great if instead of doing this with cards, it all had a reason for why they can't do something. And cigarettes seem to make the most sense. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't smoke. I assume you don't smoke.
Nope.
So I had this very weird thing. I haven't bought a pack of cigarettes in years, and except for when I bought a couple packs to develop this routine, which I still have somewhere and I couldn't find. These are expensive. Why would you do this? It's horrible. But it does have to be a brand new pack, and it does have to still have the cellophane on it. And I purchased a whole bunch of gimmicks from like what is that? The clear. Like clear paper, not clear paper. What do you call those things? Transparencies.
Oh, right, yes.
That I thought
no idea what you were talking about.
I have no idea what I was talking about. They could go over like the top of the pack, so that would maybe prevent them from being able to pull them out. I bought all sorts of different invisible lines and whatnot. And then I realized when I bought my first pack of cigarettes, and I went to open it up and pull the cigarettes out of the pack, I realized I couldn't do it. I couldn't pull the cigarettes out of the pack. And I realized I couldn't do it because of the cellophane, and that I was having that same sort of binding issue that I was having with the cards. Let me get rid of all this jazz that's in there. And it just works. They just get stuck in there, which is amazing. So, I know you don't believe me. It's a very strange.
It seems strange.
We get rid of this stuff, just get it out of the way. So I made an offer to all my friends who smoked at the time. Fortunately, most of them don't anymore, or they're dead. So they definitely don't anymore.
Don't mince words. Tell us what you really think.
Well, actually, my very good friend Dan Huffman, who is no longer with us, smoked like a chimney up until his dying day. And I remember buying him a couple cartons of cigarettes just to see how he opened them and removed cigarettes, because everybody does it in a different way. So it is important that you guide somebody to doing this the correct way for this to work. And it is something that you will give that person that will actually help them stop smoking. Because when we smoke, I've never been a smoker, but when one smokes, it's habitual in that they already have a cigarette out of the package, they're already lighting it before they really realize what they're doing. And at that point, why stop? It's already in your mouth, you might as well smoke it. So if you can provide a pattern interrupt that will prevent you from even taking a cigarette out of the box, that's enough of a reminder. In therapy, sometimes you put stickers on things and you associate the feeling of, I don't want to smoke with the sticker, so you go, oh right, I don't actually want to do that, and you put them back. That's all this really is. So here's what I'd like you to do, is going to assume the position much like you did the first time. Fingers underneath, thumb on top, fingers underneath, thumb on top like that. In a moment, you're just going to pull a chunk of cigarettes out of the box. Because people remove cigarettes in different ways. Some people remove a chunk like that. Some people tease, this is much harder to do, they tease one out right away, or they pull the chunk out, then they tease one out, and they smoke that one. Then you have the really weirdos who not only tease one out, but they reverse it. And they save that one for last because that's their lucky cigarette.
You have the knockers as well.
The knockers.
The knockers.
Oh yeah,
yes.
That's much more. That's usually with the soft packs and the hard packs, but the knockers. I thought you were speaking of something else.
I don't know. Maybe an American thing that I don't understand.
Of course not. Yes. The fingers underneath, thumb on top. Don't pull them out yet. Just assume the position, so to speak. And in the moment, you're going to pull out a chunk of those cigarettes, about maybe halfway. Go ahead, do it now, and really try to remove those cigarettes from the pack. Say the words, George, I can't remove the cigarettes.
George, I can't remove the cigarettes.
And of course you really can. Isn't that a bizarre feeling?
It feels so strange. It really does.
And it's working the exact same way the cards are working, and you wouldn't expect this to work out of the box. And there's nothing gimmicked about this. It's just the cellophane slipping.
You feel the cellophane slipping, so
And
you
you
grip
squeeze harder.
harder, and then you gripping onto the cigarettes harder, so
Yeah.
you can't pull them out. It's
And
genius.
if these were yours, you'd be even more invested not to tear your cigarettes to pieces.
Yeah, yeah.
Because this is valuable to you. This
Yeah,
is
they're
this is like $10 of my
expensive,
life I
yeah.
don't care about because I bought it for this and they will go probably
Yeah.
in the rubbish bin at the end. But if I relax and I don't pull hard, it is possible to pull those out. The reason I can do it effortlessly is much like the overstuffing method that we talked about before with cards, is I'm actually not pulling, I'm pushing with my fingers against the flap underneath this way. So I'm pushing with my fingers that allows me to take the cigarettes out. Now here's what you can get away with, because I still want that 50% control back. So if I say, you know, I'm going to give you just 50% control. Assume the position like you did before, fingers underneath those cigarettes, thumb on top, and just go ahead and try to pull them out the rest of the way. They are still stuck in that box. As long as I don't pull them out too far, they're still going to struggle a little bit. Isn't that a bizarre feeling?
This is, yeah.
And you really can't remove them, can you?
No, if I release everything and pull,
Then you can.
Then you can. But if as soon as you feel the cellophane move, you grip harder. It's almost a natural thing. You can't stop yourself doing it.
Now here's the weird thing about this, is you are now conditioned that it's impossible to pull them out. So you're
Yeah.
not going to relax, you're going to try harder. And the harder you try, the harder it is. And that's the same thing with the cards as it is with the cigarettes. But if I say, I'll give you 99% control back, remove one, you'll be able to remove just one. Go ahead.
Yeah,
No problem.
one
Which
comes
is really
out.
bizarre because you
Yeah.
couldn't pull them out at all. You can't pull them out when it got started, but now you can remove one. Now this is interesting, and now I'm not set up to actually do this, but it's so strange, isn't it?
It feels weird. I could just take one out, but then I've got to take a whole bunch.
And you can't.
It just genuinely feels strange.
Unfortunately, people don't smoke anymore.
Yeah. I
So
know.
this is such a good trick that that I've actually talked to some psychologists to using this as a real tool and a real method to help people stop smoking. So maybe there's a future in that for you if you want to start giving stop smoking seminars. Perhaps you can do this. But the final bit, very final bit, they've removed one. This is a Haim Goldenberg idea, which he has allowed me to share with you. This was on his Between Two Minds DVDs with Guy Bovley. He takes a little bit of nail polish, but not regular nail polish. It's called No Bite, which is designed to put on your nails for people who bite their nails. So when you chew on your nails, it just tastes disgusting, as if this doesn't taste disgusting already. But putting a little bit of that on the filter end of a cigarette, so you can have a little bit of that liquid in the bottom of a wine glass. So once they take one out, they can place it into the wine glass. The filter sucks that disgusting tasting goop into it, which supposedly, I guess, is food and mouth safe. But there's worse things in the cigarette than are in the nail polish. So I'm not worried about that. But the idea is when they smoke it, this will taste as disgusting as the first time they tried smoking. So you have this sort of onstage transformation if you are in a position where you can actually have somebody light up a cigarette where they won't even enjoy the one cigarette that they finally got out of the box, and it sort of all comes full circle. Unless your name is Dan Harlan. Why do I bring up Dan Harlan? Well, I did this for Dan Harlan. You can see this on, I taught just the cigarette version of this on my Penguin lecture, number 2. And I believe this is the same brand that he smokes. For whatever reason, he decided not to make me look the best as he could possibly make me look and just lie through his teeth. Love you, Dan. Thanks for that. He smoked that cigarette even though it was disgusting as hell and acted like he enjoyed every second of it, which was hilarious and wonderful. I almost guarantee your audience will not be Dan Harlan. But it actually was quite smart. I would have done the same thing to him given the chance. He claims he just has no taste buds left in his mouth from ages of smoking, and he didn't do it on purpose, which may or may not be true. I have my suspicions. Either way, that is stop smoking.